Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of Vlog Reviews. You know, I love RPGs. If anybody knows anything about me that much, I love a really good RPG. Hell, even a game that has RPG elements in it. Especially a really good tactical RPG. My very first encounter with this, of course, was Final Fantasy Tactics. I enjoyed the game, but I found that a lot of it eventually just gets way too difficult. And then, of course, my friends turned me onto the Disgaea series, which I loved so much more, and eventually leading into the Fire Emblem series on the Game Boy Advance and 3DS. So, when it comes to a really good tactical RPG, you know, you just gotta sprinkle in a couple of little elements of, hey, you know, not only is there an RPG system in here, there's a tactical RPG. Ooh, now that'll really spark my interest. Surely this has got to be a really good game, right? Sadly, this is not one of those. This is God Wars. God Wars is a tactical RPG which came out back in June for the PlayStation 4 and the PS Vita. And it more or less takes place back in Japanese era and has animated segments, and I've played probably about 4 hours or so of the game, and yeah, I don't really like it, and I'm going to try and go into good detail on why. So, a lot of my big problem with this, for one thing, is that I found the story to be just utterly bland and boring. Same with the gameplay. The story feels just, well, in and of itself, it's very anime heavy, even going so far as to have cutscenes. And they look nice, but when it boils down to it, for me anyway, the characters don't really have character. And they have very little motivation, where everything just feels very standardized anime. I'm in love with this girl, but she's going to be sacrificed because that's her duty. I must save her. And this beast man that really has no character and apparently doesn't speak English is coming with me. That was the most puzzling part to me about the entire game of, who the hell is this guy? Apparently he's just a monster that just tugs along with you and helps out. And God, the gameplay in here is boring. It is. I mean, it's very standard tactical RPG. And the funny thing is just to kind of refresh myself, I went back and actually played quite a few hours of Final Fantasy Tactics and a little bit of Disgaea. The Disgaea series, I love the first two games. Played them several times, beat them, and even so much so that I have Disgaea D2 in my collection. I've probably only played maybe about an hour or so of it, but that's how much I love the Disgaea series. And just to refresh myself on how the story elements in those games feel and the gameplay, they're miles above this. For one thing, you know, going through your squad and picking who to move and then to attack actually feels a little bit better. And even the enemy AI actually feels intelligent, like it's actually really trying to put on a challenge. So much so that you will certainly get a game over a couple of times, or you'll lose a character if you're not careful. But, man, in God Wars, the enemy AI feels pretty damn dumb. And what's worse is that the combat just drags at times. Why? Because the area is filled with so many enemies, and some of them are so far away from you that they won't even start moving until you get relatively close to them. Which just kind of drags it out even more when you slowly eventually get to them. The only new thing that this game really adds to tactical RPG, which I think is kind of cool, is the idea in that if you're standing on a higher plane compared to another enemy, if you're going to attack them, you gain, you know, some obvious advantage from that because you're higher than them. Or if they're attacking you, they gain like some, or they have like, like some sort of a disadvantage. But, it never really seemed to affect anything, really. When, especially in the series like Disgaea, where when you and your allies were close to each other and you attacked, somebody that they were close to, you would have double and triple and even quadruple team attacks, which was really cool, and this just doesn't have that. And it has pretty standard characters. You got, your warrior farmer guy, because apparently those are some of his skills, is farming. And then you got your warrior guy, and then you have your and then, of course, you have your archer, who is also a priestess. I was actually surprised that she was an archer, so at least she's pretty useful in combat. Of course, she also has she has one magical attack spell, and her healing spells are at least helpful. And then you get another healer at one point, who also has more attack spells. But, yeah, I played this for 4 hours, and the random encounters that I got into, I mean, they weren't hard, they just got very boring, was a lot of my problem with this. And to a point where I just didn't care. I mean, leveling up and going into combat really didn't feel fun at all. It just felt tedious, and I didn't care about where the story was going. I didn't really care all that much about any of the characters. Mostly because they are so simple and one-dimensional that I don't care about them. I don't care about their struggle. I don't care about what's going on. And at one point, there's this in-game story segment that's happening where the priestess character is being spoken to by all these different spirits. And I even mentioned on Twitter, this has got to be the most annoying cutscene I've ever seen. And each of them are speaking in different children's voices, going on about how, yeah, you gotta stop the war, you gotta stop the war, no, war is good, no, we gotta stop the war, she's stopping the war, man.
We're enraged! We're enraged by Amaterasu and Susano! It's because of the war! It's war! It's war!
And it just goes on and on and on, and I'm thinking to myself, is this supposed to be funny? 'Cause it isn't. I'm not laughing. If anything, this is just incredibly annoying. And yeah. And I got into one fight, which I'm not sure if it was supposed to be a mini-boss, or at least some type of a challenge. But yeah, by that point, I just stopped caring, and I just quit out of just sheer boredom. I mean, the fact that leveling up your characters and trying to grind really doesn't feel all that fun. What I also don't like is that, I guess from any other standard RPG, and at least, what this does, what others will kind of do too, is before you purchase a brand new item, weapon, or piece of armor for a character, you can try it on, at least to see if it does really improve your character or if it doesn't, opposed to just wasting the money on something and then finding out that, oh, this is worse than what I previously had. So there's that. But what was so really good about Final Fantasy Tactics, or Disgaea, was, not just, the number of different characters that you met and, can bring into your party and whatnot, but was also the fact, too, that you could customize and make your own different soldiers and warriors for you, different mages, or different warrior types, or spellcasters, monks, and stuff like that. And that was always what was so cool about them. And then you could change their jobs and make them master several different things. You can kind of do that here, but nobody really seems to have a job title or anything like that. And I mean, the changes, or at least some of the upgrades, specifically for people's spells, like, do seem to feel a tad more powerful in terms of healing and stuff like that. But when you have a character like the big monster guy, I swear there were so many occasions where he was just useless, where at one point he was slowed and I couldn't get him to jump over this little riverbank where everybody else already was because he was slowed. So all he could do was just stand on this one spot or move back one, and that was it, because he was in the middle of this river. So, and then even when he did attack, or if I had him do a special ability tackle, there were quite a few times during combat where he missed, or he did very little damage. And there were quite a few times where he was always the first one to usually go down. Not much of a tank character or anything like that, which you would expect, but apparently he isn't. So, yeah, and I don't know if the game, how many other new characters there are that might have come in. I do know that at one point, like, as I was, going along, and bear in mind, this was only 4 hours into the game, how I seemed to be going through chapters very quickly. I forget exactly what chapter it was that I was on when I quit. It was, I want to say, chapter 5 or 6 or something like that. And even I was thinking, like, that's quite a few chapters for only 4 hours. But whatever. So, I mean, bottom line is, I bought this for $50 out of pure curiosity. And as an RPG Tactics fan, I gotta say, man, play something else. There are far better games. Hell, there are far better games that came out years ago. Hell, I still haven't finished playing Fire Emblem Awakening, which I heard was a really good game, and I like the Fire Emblem series. Final Fantasy Tactics is still pretty damn good. It's hard, but it's a good game, and of course, there's still the Disgaea series. There's plenty of other better stuff. Until then, I hope you guys have enjoyed. Please click the like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. I would really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter. Support me on Patreon. Links are in the description down below. See you guys next time.